Вітаю, це «Голос Америки» українською. Мене звати Ілона Войтович. Сьогодні у нас буде дуже цікава розмова про жінок у сфері STEM, американську мрію у Кремнієвій долині із одною молодою, дуже амбітною українкою, яка стала відомою як у Нью-Йорку, так і поза його межами ще у 2020 році. Її звати Карина Попович і їй 20 років. Незважаючи на її молодий вік, вона вже встигла зробити неабиякий вклад у суспільство. Тоді, на піку пандемії, за ініціативи Карини, американські госпіталі отримали більше 82 тисяч засобів індивідуального захисту, коли кожна маска для обличчя, як кажуть, була на вагу золота. Сьогодні Карина приєднується до нас із Корнельського університету, де вона навчається у престижній бізнес-школі Дайсон. Тут вона вчиться основам успішного бізнесу як інженер у сфері 3D і водночас прокладає шлях для інших жінок та дівчат своїм прикладом. Власне, чому ми і запросили її на розмову. Карино, я знаю, що тобі легше буде розмовляти англійською, тому ми перекладемо твої відповіді у субтитрах. Привіт!
I got it. My grandma would be so proud of me.
Отже, твоє хобі будівництва 3D-роботів відкрило тобі шлях у світ STEM. З чого почалося твоє захоплення?
My family, we immigrated from Черновцы and came here to the US in 2000, started out in Brooklyn, New York, and my dad's first job was being an electrician. So because of that, I always remember wanting to know how things worked, always wanted to break things apart and fix them. And so I would always play with screwdrivers and pliers and, always ask my dad to teach me, how do I light up a light bulb? How do I do this? How do I fix that? And from there, I ended up doing more robotics in middle school, and in high school, I ended up, trying out a 3D printer for the first time. And that's when I really realized that I just love engineering and I love building things and I love being able to really just make whatever I can imagine.
Чому ти створила свою організацію Makers for COVID-19? І чи продовжує твоя спільнота благодійну роботу і у інших точках світу?
So I started out Makers for COVID-19 while I was in my first year of college. I had a 3D printer, and it was around that time that, the pandemic was starting. Everyone was confused. No one knew what was going on. And I was going back home from college, back to Brooklyn, New York. And I, got a bunch of texts from my friends saying, Karina, I know you have a 3D printer. Have you tried to 3D print face shields or masks or anything like that that could help the medical community? And at first I, didn't even bother. I thought, what kind of world do we live in that would need, 3D printed PPE from a 19-year-old girl? I thought it was just crazy and surreal. And so I kind of just left the idea until one night I decided, let me give this a try. I ended up printing 20 face shields and I gave them to, a neighborhood nurse. And that same night she sent me a video of her whole floor thanking me for those face shields, because they were so grateful that they actually had some PPE to protect them, PPE that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to get. From there, I ended up gathering a group of 350 plus people to 3D print more face shields. And these were people who were in all, years of their career. We had people who were working at Microsoft, who were working at Amazon. We had people who were my age. We had people who were in their 60s and retired. And it was this huge group of people that got together, and I was able to lead them in producing PPE and then distributing it to 250 hospitals and medical facilities across the US. And we ended up donating 82,000 units of PPE all over the US, and even some across the seas. And we aren't producing PPE anymore. We aren't 3D printing PPE, but we did shift the organization to Makers for Change, which is the same idea of using 3D printing for good, except now we're teaching people, we're teaching kids, we're teaching high school students, so people who are 14 to 18 years old, how to 3D print animal prosthetics, how to 3D print toys for children's hospitals, and how to 3D print braille models for the visually impaired. And the best part of it all is that we're actually teaching students how to 3D print these, solve problems, and then donate them to their communities. So what we're really doing here is empowering students to be leaders, to be problem solvers, to be engineers, and to really just make a difference in their communities. Really, on a bigger scale, Makers for Change is focusing on some of the equity issues among education gaps.
Чи в тебе колись були випадки, коли ти могла зіткнутися із дискримінацією у сфері STEM?
You know, I think STEM being such a male-dominated sphere and there being so few women has made it difficult for me and, you know, many of my friends who are very passionate and excited about STEM, especially, you know, when I was in high school. That's when, you know, I kind of really started to feel what it was like to be one of 6 girls among 60 guys. You know, I couldn't really find friends that, you know, were into fashion like I was. I couldn't really, you know, wear dresses because there weren't a lot of people wearing dresses. You know, I couldn't really care about my hair because most of the people in the classroom really didn't care about their hair, and things like that, coupled with, you know, also feeling like I, you know, might not deserve to be there. I might not be good enough, were definitely things that I felt a lot, and, you know, made it harder for me to stay in STEM. I felt like I needed to be one of the guys to fit in. And so, you know, I started kind of dressing like a tomboy. I started, you know, wearing, you know, shirts from hackathons and not really caring about how I looked. And, you know, in that way, I kind of lost a piece of myself until later I realized that, you know, me being a woman in STEM, me being a woman in such a, you know, male dominated sphere was just a really big value. And that, you know, me being comfortable with myself being there would make other people be comfortable too. And, you know, maybe me asking a wrong question or maybe me asking a certain type of question would really be just pushing us in a better direction that other people wouldn't have thought to even ask. So really, I started to view, you know, me being one of the few women as, you know, a value point and something that would bring more innovation to our discussions. And as soon as that happened, I think that's when things really changed. And I started to really be, you know, I started to really embrace my own, you know, uniqueness and my own perspectives.
У тебе дуже амбітний напрямок навчання. Ти продовжуєш розвиватися як інженер у бізнес-школі Корнелівського університету. Що тобі найбільше подобається у твоїй справі?
I think for me, I got to be an engineer while I was in high school. And now I'm focusing on business in Cornell. And I think for me, what I really love the most is being able to solve problems. So I can actually engineer solutions to problems. I can 3D print something, and then I get to actually turn that into a business. I can figure out how to make sure that it reaches millions of people, or how to make sure how it can reach thousands of people. And I think that's what, to me, is just the most exciting part, seeing something from start to finish and seeing how many people it's able to impact and how many people's lives it can actually change. And so because of that, I've been studying more business and learning how I can actually, you know, use the things that I create to make a difference. And that's exactly what I'm doing with Makers for Change. And, you know, the other venture that I'm launching right now is Inertia. And Inertia is all about, you know, showing the colorful, exciting side of STEM. And we do that through fun and exciting pop-ups that we put all over the city. And one pop-up that we're working on for the winter is actually a fully periwinkle 3D printer. And it's going to be 3D printing rocket ships for people, and anyone can come up, design their rocket ship. We'll teach them how to 3D model, and they can take it home with them. And all these installations will be publicly available in New York City and free to anyone.
Ти кажеш, що тебе в житті мотивує вирішення задач. Яку наступну велику проблему ти б хотіла вирішити у майбутньому за допомогою своїх знань поза сьогоднішнім проектом, над яким ти працюєш? Можливо, є якась більша мрія, якщо є можливо бути.
Yeah. People think of STEM as one certain thing. People think that STEM is boring, that, you know, it happens in a room by yourself, that, you know, people who are engineers don't talk to anyone and that they're isolated, or people who are engineers don't have a fashion sense, or they, you know, are kind of their own separate group of people. When in reality, STEM is not anything like that. STEM is super exciting. It's innovative. It's design heavy. It's super creative. And we really need to kind of show STEM for the creative side, for the exciting side, to, encourage more young people who are creative to explore STEM. We really want is to kind of bring these innovative minds to the table, because they're the ones that are going to be really bringing in new perspectives to create a difference and to really innovate our future. And so really the whole idea behind Inertia and creating these fun and engaging STEM pop-ups is to really paint a new perspective for what STEM is, and really just show it for all the exciting parts, to just encourage people to explore it, to get excited about it, and to really just eliminate some of the biases that go on with STEM, and really just kind of shift the needle there, so that we can have a bigger cultural change that is more inviting of STEM and basically pushes for more representation and in essence more innovation.
Свій час ти була засновницею організації, яка будувала 3D-принтери і синхронізувала це все з фешн-індустрією. Чи є в цьому якесь майбутнє?
I really love 3D printing and I love fashion. I actually went to New York Fashion Week this past fall, and it was the most amazing experience. And so one of the things that I loved doing was bridging fashion with STEM. Because again, I think, what better way to show how creative engineering is than to actually bring the two worlds together. And so what I did is actually 3D print on fabric and clothing. And then I was able to create this collection that I called Alpha. And basically it was a set of, items with 3D printed logos and text and designs on them. And it's actually something super simple that anyone can do. Really 3D print onto clothing is much simpler than people think. And since then, I've been able to work with other cool people who are 3D printing dresses and 3D printing all these sorts of textiles and materials. And it's something that I have been just really interested in, especially since I think 3D printing really can be the future of so many different parts of our lives. Whether that be, meat being 3D printed or organs being 3D printed, to even, the future of dresses and fabric and sustainable fabrics being 3D printed. 3D printing overall is more sustainable than like all the other practices that happen in like the industry. So like I can go on about how cool 3D printing is. I mean, there's literally houses being 3D printed. And that is, in itself a more sustainable way of production.
Ти у свій час також знялася в рекламі для Microsoft. Ти проходила у них також стажування влітку 2017 року. Сьогодні тобі часом не приходять пропозиції на роботу від великих компаній. Де ти себе бачиш після закінчення навчання?
I definitely get some offers from various companies to work for them. Microsoft is definitely a good one. Amazon too. I actually interned at Amazon as their software engineer at one point during college. And I realized that for myself, what I really see myself doing after I graduate Cornell is continuing to solve problems and doing that through consulting. So one of the things that I'm looking at to do is, join a consulting company where I can consult on, future of technology. And that's actually something that I got to do this summer. And something that I'm going to do next summer in San Francisco. I'm going to be doing blockchain consulting for Accenture. So, anything from cryptocurrencies to blockchain and how that can be applied to, regulating the supply chain and, tracking down to the end user. That's all the super exciting stuff that I'm going to get to do and going to actually apply that to help companies solve their problems and to really be more innovative. So I'm very, very excited to, do more technology and to apply technology to solve problems for other companies. And, in the future, I'm really excited to, start my own venture and do something a lot bigger than Makers for COVID-19, to do something a lot bigger than Makers for Change. And hopefully to do something that, is for profit and that reaches a ton of people and really, kind of changes the world in a way that, Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos were able to. And I think that's really kind of my motivating dream, is really achieving that American dream that, my parents worked so hard to bring me here and to give me a good life, to, educate me, get me into Cornell. And so now I just, want to take every advantage of those opportunities and that foundation that they laid for me, and, be the future, Mark Zuckerberg, and be the future Jeff Bezos that is able to revolutionize the world.